Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Really is great to see you here in the sanctuary. Earlier this week was not really sure what was going to happen with the storm, with Hurricane Ian. I actually just returned home today, as I know many others have, or yesterday, hoping and praying that your house, your property is doing well, but most importantly, that your health and well-being is in tip-top shape as we now find ourselves in the intermediate Shabbat in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which is called the Sabbath of Return, Shabbat Shuvah. So welcome to all of you in the sanctuary. Hello to all of you in Shabbat Shalom at home. I'm Rabbi Matt Berger. I'm joined in the bima with our soloist, Allison Rosoff, and down at our piano, our accompanist, Joy Katzen-Guthrie. You'll be able to follow along with all of the prayers on either screen. If you'd like to open up your Sidur, Mishkan Tefillah, your prayer book, you can turn to page 10 and you'll find the words to Psalm 133, how good and how pleasant it is to be together. Mato umanayim shevet gachim gam yachad. Hine mato umanayim shevet gachim gam yachad. How good it is to be together. How good it is to be together. Whoa, 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 whoa. Enemato umanayim shevet gachim gam yachad. Enemato umanayim shevet gachim gam yachad. Get in the spirit of lighting our twin candles for Shabbat, one for remember, one for observe, by singing Debbie Friedman's Light These Lights. Find the bracha, blessing for the candles, on page 2. Holy One, we offer a special prayer for peace in the Ukraine at this time. Spread over Ukraine your shelter of peace, your sukkah of peace. Guard all of the families whose lives have been uprooted during this ongoing conflict. May their bodies, their spirits, their property, and their land be protected and safe. And let us do our part to build a more just, loving, and life-sustaining world, speedily and in our own days. Baruch atah Adonai Shomea Tefillah. Bless you and praise you, God, who listens to our prayers. We'll continue with our Kabbalat Shabbat song as we welcome Shabbat on page 24 with the words of Shalom Aleichem, peace be to you, messengers of the Most High.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mini Melech, Malachei Amlachim, Akadosh Baruch Hu. Lachem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, Akadosh Baruch Hu. Dili Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, Akadosh Baruch Hu. Dili Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, Akadosh Baruch Hu.
Continue down on page 26, the words of the half or Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadav, yitkadash, Shemi Rabbah, Amen. Mi'amad yivarach Yerutei, v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayichon uvyomechon, uv'chayitcho beit Yisrael, b'galav izman kariv, v'yimaru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mivarach, le'olam u'lamei omayah, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yipa'ar v'yiroman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, Shmei Kedusha, Brichu, le'ela u'le'ena, min kol birchata v'shirata, tu v'shvata v'nechemata,
We continue now with Shema and its blessings in our high holiday nusach, or singing mode. Let's rise for the call to prayer, which begins on 28. on 31, let's read the words of creation for the evening together. Ma'ariv Aravim. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. And words of love, ahavat olam, are found on 33. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. It's a prelude to the Shema. Listen, we'll sing Open Up Our Eyes.
Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know
Just how to live, our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give.
Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. And we will know that you are one. Lie, 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 lie.
And let's sing the words, You shall love Adonai your God, the words of V'ahavta together. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol me'odecha, v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh, asher anochi mitzavcha, Hayom alevavecha, vishinantam levanecha, v'dibarta abam, v'shiptecha b'veitecha, uvlechtecha b'derech, u'shokmecha uvkumecha, u'kshartam le'ot ayadecha, v'hayu letotafot ein einecha, Uktavtam al mezuzot betecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. Let's turn to words of truth and faith, emet ve'emunah, on page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together as we continue with our prayer of freedom. Praise are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. And we'll continue with a prayer of shelter and protection. Page 42.
Le'amidenu
continue now with our standing prayers, which begin on page 46. God, open up our lips. In our prayer book, for the first prayer, the Avot and Imahot on page 48, you'll notice a little insert that says Shabbat Shuvah in even smaller print than the regular print, so you really have to have your eyeballs on there. So whenever you see that little Shabbat Shuvah section, we'll be adding that this very day. Let's rise for our standing prayers.
Adonai, Sefer Tiftach, Uvi Agita Hilatecha. Adonai, Sefer
words of the Kedusha, Ta Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, Kadoshim B'chol Yom Yalucha Sela, Baruch Atah Adonai HaMelech HaKadosh. Praised are you, Adonai, Holy Sovereign. Feel free to be seated. We'll continue with our intermediate blessings of the Tefillah, which is a prayer for Shabbat and keeping it holy. Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. We also offer a prayer called Avodah, or worship. Baruch Atah Adonai HaMachazir Shechinato L'Tzion, that God's presence will always reside with us here and in Israel as well. And you'll find words of gratitude on page 59 called Hoda'ah. Baruch Atah Adonai Hatov Shimcha U'ha-na'eh Lechodot. I'm sure many of us are feeling that gratitude toward the end of this week. On page 60, a blessing for peace. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha. Grant abundant peace to Israel, your people, forever. For you are the sovereign God of all peace. May it be pleasing to you to bless your people Israel in every season and moment with your peace. In addition, for this particular Shabbat, the Sabbath of return, in the Book of Life, Sefer HaChaim, blessing, peace, and prosperity, may we be remembered and inscribed by you, we and all your people Israel, for a good life and for peace. Baruch Atah Adonai Osei HaShalom. Blessed are you, Adonai, who makes peace. And for our moments of reflection, we're going to share the words of Psalm 27 with this beautiful arrangement by Chava Mirel called Achat Sha'alti. One thing I have asked of God, only this do I seek, to dwell in God's house all the days of my life. Let's now offer a prayer of healing, and especially this week we think of all the Floridians and as well as those in South Carolina and North Carolina who may have been physically affected by Hurricane Ian, which is a very, very powerful storm. You'll find the words to Misha Barak on page 245 as we think of the following individuals for strength at this time. We call to mind Yonatan Reuven Ben Rivka, Charlie Burke, Norma Bloomberg Van Ness, Babs Brown, Manuel Cruz, Lillian Epstein, Evelyn Edelman, Rob Edelman, Gustav Ferreira, Harry Fleisch, John Friedman, Denise Freifeld, Mitchell Freifeld, Sidel Freifeld, Leah Gottlieb, Norman Kelton, Arnold Miller, Melissa Miller, William Miller, Priscilla Nathanson, Michael Ranzino, Rabbi Avram Reifer, Kelly Diana Rain, Miriam Richmond, Stephanie Ross, Dennis Schulman, Jeff Stark, Jen Swan, Sharon Worster, and Sophia Young. Are there any names you'd like to add at this time?
My father, George Stark.
What a week. Man alive. It started out really well with a nice Erev Rosh Hashanah service right here in the sanctuary on Sunday evening. I wore my Charlie Brown socks and shared the wisdom of Charles Schultz. It was a beautiful celebration of the Jewish New Year, 5783, and it was wonderful to see so many of you, not only on the live stream, but here in person as well. On Monday morning, it was shared by a beautiful Rosh Hashanah Day 1 morning service. I shared a sermon about God's mailbox, and wouldn't you know it, when I asked the congregation to write down a prayer of their own, It filled that box all the way to the top. After the holidays, I'll find a way to send them to Jerusalem so they can be hand-placed in the crevices beneath those giant Herodian stones at the Kotel or Western Wall. I'd like to say that our new family and youth service was also a success. It was awesome having the opportunity to share Rosh Hashanah with religious school students and their families in our own sanctuary right here. 10 kids and teens, some from our temple youth group, led the prayers, while Harriet Cesaro and Mike Skalka, our religious school music team, led us in song. Eve Goldstein, who was Harriet's right-hand woman for over 20 years in religious school, also joined us on the bima. The family and youth service also had a special visit from Rabbi Love, my puppet colleague, who brings new meaning to the term man of the cloth, given that's what he's actually made of. For Rosh Hashanah, we decided to share a version of one of my favorite Beatles songs, Your Mother Should Know, which included special lyrics about the shofar, the ram's horn, and high holiday trope, except not literary trope, but rather this is a special way of chanting the Torah verses in cantillation, which is only used on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It was all looking very good, then things started to turn sideways a whole lot. The weather reports warned us Hurricane Ian was zeroing in right on Tampa Bay in our backyard, which would have been the first direct hit to Tampa Bay since 1921. 101 years since the last one, which created Hurricane Pass between Caladesi Island and Honeymoon Island. Because it was looking pretty bleak late Monday afternoon, I made a call to our temple president, Ed Marks, who had spoken earlier with our vice president, Paula Rosoff, and after a discussion, we collectively decided to cancel the second day Rosh Hashanah service in the name of safety, given that residents in evacuation zones A, B, and C were under mandatory orders to shelter elsewhere. Thankfully, we were largely spared from the effects of this colossal hurricane, amazingly, which tore across all of Florida and then had enough strength to hit yet again in the southeast. Yesterday, in my weekly rabbi's message, I shared a special prayer with the congregation, which is called Birkat HaGomel, which is a blessing that's shared either in the synagogue or on your own for those who have survived a life-threatening situation. 2,000 years ago, back in the days when the temple in Jerusalem was in session, the Israelites would bring a thanksgiving offering to God after emerging from said dangerous situations. Other things could be traveling at sea, walking or making a trek through the desert, giving birth to a child, or recovering from a serious illness or injury. Once the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed, our rabbis made a quick pivot and asked us to recite the prayer ourselves, which usually takes place after the Torah is chanted during a Shabbat morning service, but can easily be said by ourselves or in the presence of 10 or more people. In this spirit, I'll invite you to join with me as we give thanks for surviving this storm. The prayer starts in the usual way, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, praise are you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. And then we add words that speak to the occasion, which is Hagomel, L'chayavim, Tovot, Shegamlani Kol Tov, meaning that God rewards people and each of us individually with goodness. Around here, the cleanup has been relatively straightforward. Some palm fronds, some tree limbs, restoring some power to customers. For those closer to Venice and Fort Myers and Naples, quite another story as infrastructure was truly damaged in the wake of the storm. Hopefully, those who experienced damage to their homes will recover as quickly as possible so that once again they'll be able to move forward from strength to strength. That's a whole lot of action in a relatively short period of time, and we're only halfway through the High Holy Days. Now, many rabbis have used this particular Shabbat, the Sabbath of Return, for their longest and most fiery sermon of the year, which is a venerable tradition to be sure. But I am also going to pivot in another direction this evening. Instead, I'll share a really good folk tale and leave the nudging about teshuvah and becoming a better person for my 2 Yom Kippur sermons, evening and morning. Throughout Jewish history, there have been so many wonderful Jewish storytellers. In particular, the Yiddish greats from Eastern Europe and Russia have stood out for their contributions, the likes of Shalom Aleichem and Yud Lamed Peretz, just to name 2 of them. And while these storytellers often spoke of serious matters, they also used humor to spice up their tales. In this spirit, I'm going to share with you a story about a kibbutzer. So who is a kibbutzer? A kibbutzer is someone who thinks that they know more than you. They tend to give unsolicited advice that's not necessarily on the mark. In a word, a kibbutzer is someone who sticks their nose in other people's business. I first came upon this story about a kibbutzer called The Tale in a wonderful collection by Nathan Alsubel called A Treasury of Jewish Folklore, which I've been using for at least 20 years, but it's found in other volumes as well. It's about a guy named Motka Rabinowitz. He's a fish peddler in a shtetl, or a really small village in Eastern Europe. No surprise yet. Motke had always hoped to improve his business. So one day he decided to sell his push cart, which most people used, and he rented a storefront. After thinking for a while, he said, I need to drum up some business, so maybe I should do a little bit of advertising. So he painted a sign and hung it up over the doorway, and here's what it said: fresh fish sold here daily. Fresh fish sold here daily. Motka the peddler climbed the ladder and went about the task of nailing in the sign right above the storefront. And wouldn't you know it, before Motka could hammer in those final nails, a kibbutzer passed by and yelled out to him, "What kind of cockamamie or mixed up sign is that?" Motke answered, "Well, what's wrong with it?" The passerby said, "Why does it say fresh fish? Would you sell us fish that was rotten or not fresh? Your customers are going to get suspicious, no?" "You're absolutely right," Motka replied. So he dipped his paintbrush into the white bucket and painted over the word fresh and continued hanging the sign. Then, a few minutes later, a second kibbutzer strolled by and yelled up to Motke, who was almost done, "Hold on a minute. I love your sign. But should you also be saying sold? Of course you sell fish. You're not going to give them away for free, are you?" Motke agreed, of course, and once again he brought out that white paintbrush, dipped it into the bucket, and painted over the word sold. A few minutes later, a third kibbutzer came by, and Motka couldn't believe his luck, or lack thereof. The kibbutzer this time complimented him on the sign, but then he yelled, "Motka, why do you use the word here in the sign? Are you planning on selling fish in another place?" "You're absolutely right," Motka said. So he painted out the word here in white, like it was never there. But as soon as he corrected the sign, a fourth kibbutzer walked by and yelled up to him, "Motka, your sign is so confusing. What do you mean by the word daily? If the fish are truly fresh, they're certainly not going to come into your shop and go out only on a weekly basis, are they?" Motka the peddler saw his point and answered, "I totally agree with you. So he painted out the word daily. Now the sign just read fish. Given there was only one word left, Moki figured he could come down the ladder and take a look finally at his completed sign. But he was wrong because a fifth kibitzer came by. It was a busy village that particular day at the storefront. Pardon me, Moka, I don't mean to intrude, but why are you putting up such a useless sign that only has one word, fish? I can smell your fish from over a mile away. Upon hearing this, Motka climbed up the ladder and took the sign down, all the while thinking to himself, I'm so fortunate to get such great advice. Sometime later, Moka was sitting in front of his store, obviously with no sign above his head. Another kibitzer came by and said, Motka, how's business doing? It looks like you don't have any customers. I will admit, Motka said, that business is a little slow. The kibitzer looked at him and shared this great pearl of wisdom. So new, why don't you put up a sign? And now for the moral of the story. A kibitzer can be a pain in the neck, but more than one can get you all mixed up. In just a few days, the holiest day of the Jewish year will be upon us, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement or At-One-ment. Let's hope that our time of personal reflection will lead us to make meaningful changes in our lives that will stand the test of time, and we won't be swayed by the first kibitzer that comes along with his or her opinion. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to continue with the words of Aleinu, the adoration, found on 282. Please rise as we open the ark.
Aleinu l'shabech la'adon ha'kol, le'teit gedula le'yotzei b'reshit, shelo asanu kigoyei haratzot, ve'lo samanu kemishpechat ha'adama, shelo sam kakinu kahem, ve'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anaknu korim u'meshachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol ha'aretz, bayom hahu yihi Adonai echad, u'shemo
We will continue now with the Mourner's Kaddish, Kaddish Yatom, words of praise that you can find on page 294. As we call to mind friends and families in the period of Shloshim, the first 30 days, remembering a loved one. As we call to mind John Solar, friend of Ed Marks. And we also mark the yahrzeit anniversary of passing of friends and loved ones on this Shabbat, as we remember Seymour Altman, Joan Bayer, Rose Bartoldi, Gerald Galati, Irene Grubman, Jack Herman, David Jackson, Leonard Kent, Larry Kent, Frida Levine, David Nemso, Benjamin Patchen, Ephraim Rivland, Bella Rosenblatt, Manny Scheidler, Oscar Schiffman, Gerald Slavny, Alan Spector, Donald Stein, Bernice Tapper, Alice Tave, Stanley Wayne, Frank Weiner, Fred Werner, Warren Wilson, Joshua Zisman, and Mildred Zielinski. Are there any other names to add for Yahrzeit at this time? We say Zichronam Livracha. May the memory of all these good people continue to be a blessing in their loved ones' lives as we rise to offer the words of Kaddish praise together. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei decho beit Yisrael, v'agalah v'isman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach le'alam u'lamei al-maya, yitbarach v'yisharach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudashah b'rihu, La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushvichata v'nechemata ta'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mramav kuya asei shalom ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who causes peace in the heavens cause peace to descend on us, Israel, and throughout the world as we say, Amen. Feel free to be seated. If you turn to page 5 in your prayer books, you'll find the words to Shabbat Kiddush, blessing over the fruit of the vine. Please join us. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei b'riah gafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'yavahu ratzon, inhilanu, zikaron le'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tefilah, l'mivra'ei kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim. Banu v'charta, v'yotanu kidasha, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'yavahu ratzon, v'atanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Okay, my pleasure now to call upon Bill Ross, representing our leadership, to share a few brief announcements in anticipation of this weekend and Yom Kippur coming right up.
Shabbat Shalom. Many thanks to Rabbi Matt Allison and Joy, and of course our tech crew back there, Brad and Stephen, for helping us pray tonight. I have to tell you, our reverse tashlik is going to be postponed at this point. In the view of things that happen, there's too many people that have other more priority things that need to be done post-Eon, I believe. And it was not possible to get the supplies and things needed because of the same. So, but please donate to the Jewish Federation's Emergency Fund. They'll help out for the Floridians that did have mishaps, and immediate needs are there for them. Our Kol Nidre service on Tuesday, October 4th, is at 7:30 p.m. Yom Kippur morning begins at 10 a.m. on the 5th. Following the service, please join us for the Oneg Shabbat and Social Hall tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. Definitely looking forward to Yom Kippur and having so many more people here in the sanctuary once again, and hopefully we will find a time to do that beach cleanup, and I'm sure the organization will let us know. Tikkun Hayam, fixing the sea. We're going to conclude our services today singing Yehiyu L'Ratzon, may the words of our mouths and the meditations of our heart be acceptable to you, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Hava, Hava Nashira, Shir Hallelujah, Shir Hallelujah. 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 Excuse the incorrect slide. It happens to the best of us. We'll conclude with our prayer for health and well-being. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu al shmirat hanefesh, for the mitzvah and sacred obligation to prepare, to save our lives and protect those around us. Shabbat Shalom, and best wishes for a Shana Tova. May we all be sealed in the book of life and blessing this new year.